What if a single bloodstained sandal could expose a conspiracy hidden beneath the shadow of the tabernacle? Before sunrise in the wilderness of Sinai, Micah discovers that his brother Eitan has vanished, leaving behind blood, sacred blue wool, burned grain, and a trail of clues leading towards stolen offerings, false weights, corrupted officials, and a secret plot powerful enough to divide all Israel. But as Micah searches for the truth, he must face an even greater danger: the anger growing inside his own heart. Will he bring his brother's killers to justice, or will revenge turn him into the very kind of man his brother died resisting? This is not only a murder mystery, it is a powerful biblical historical fiction story about justice, holiness, corruption, grief, forgiveness, and the true meaning of the laws found in the book of Leviticus. Before the story begins, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for more deeply researched biblical documentaries, historical mysteries, and faith-based stories like this one. After watching, share your thoughts in the comments. Which mattered more in Micah's journey? Justice, forgiveness, or obedience to God? Your comment may help another viewer see the story from a completely different perspective. Now, let us begin the story. The first thing Micah found was not his brother's body, but a single blood-stained sandal lying in the ashes behind the bronze altar. Its leather strap had been cut cleanly, not torn by running feet or damaged by fire, and beneath its heel were caught two things that should never have been together: a thread of blue wool used in sacred work and the blackened husk of grain that had already been counted among the offerings of Israel. Dawn had not yet broken over the wilderness. The eastern sky was only a narrow gray line beyond the mountains, and the camp slept beneath thousands of tents arranged around the tabernacle like a vast living wheel. In the darkness, smoke from the altar rose slowly above the linen curtains, carrying the lingering smell of burned fat, flour, oil, and flesh. Somewhere among the tents, a child cried and was comforted. A donkey stamped against its tether. The watchmen near the boundary of the sanctuary murmured to each other, unaware that Micah was kneeling behind the altar with blood on his fingertips. The sandal belonged to Eitan, his older brother. Micah knew every mark in the leather. He had watched Eitan repair the sole beside their mother's tent 3 evenings before, using a bone needle and a strip cut from an old goatskin water pouch. Eitan had laughed when Micah told him the stitching looked crooked. "Crooked things can still carry a man in a straight path," Eitan had said. Now the sandal lay half buried in sacred ash, and Eitan was gone. Micah wrapped the sandal in the edge of his cloak before touching it again. He searched the ground by the dim light of a small oil lamp. The earth had been swept, but not perfectly. A shallow groove ran from the rear corner of the altar toward the northern side of the courtyard. Near it, the sand held the partial print of a broad foot and the circular impression of a staff tipped with metal. There was also a stain darker than the surrounding soil. Micah pressed 2 fingers to it. The blood had begun to dry. He heard footsteps and extinguished the lamp. A figure moved between the altar and the entrance to the tent of meeting. The man carried a copper pan and walked with the confident pace of someone who belonged within the sacred enclosure. Micah remained motionless behind the stone-lined ash pit until the man passed. In the weak light, he recognized Oren, one of the Levites assigned to assist with the morning duties. Oren did not look toward him. He emptied the pan, paused, and stared at the rear corner of the altar for several breaths. Then he bent down and picked something from the ground. Micah could not see what it was. Oren closed his fist around the object and slipped it into his belt. He glanced toward the entrance, then hurried away. Micah waited until the sound of his sandals faded. He rose, tucked Eitan's blood-stained sandal beneath his cloak, and followed. Before he reached the courtyard entrance, a hand seized his arm. Micah spun, drawing the small knife he carried for cutting rope. The blade stopped inches from Tirzah's throat. She did not flinch. "You were always too quick with that hand," she whispered. "And you were always too quiet with your feet." Tirzah released him. She was wrapped in a dark mantle, her hair covered, her face pale from exhaustion. A narrow scar crossed her left eyebrow, a reminder of the night an Amalekite raiding party had attacked the outer camp months earlier. She had fought beside the men until the raiders fled, though many still spoke of her courage as if it were a troubling violation of the natural order. "I saw you enter the sanctuary courtyard," she said. "You followed me?" "I followed Eitan." Micah's anger struck before grief could stop it. He grabbed her shoulders. "You saw him? Last night? Where? Let go of me." "Where was he?" Tirzah pushed his hands away. "Near the grain storehouse. He was arguing with someone." "Who?" I could not see the man's face. "He wore a priestly linen tunic beneath a dark cloak." Micah stared at her. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because Eitan told me not to. My brother is missing, and his blood is behind the altar." The words changed her expression. "Blood!" Micah showed her the sandal. Tirzah covered her mouth. For several moments, only the faint crackling of altar fire disturbed the silence. "He said he had discovered something," she whispered. "Something about the offerings." "What?" "He believed grain was disappearing before it reached the families it was meant to support. Silver too. At first he thought the records were wrong. Then he began comparing the sanctuary accounts with the marks used by the storehouse keepers. Eitan had served as a record keeper under the Levites, copying numbers onto clay tablets and leather scrolls. He was careful to the point of irritation. As a child, he had once made Micah count the family's dried figs 3 times because the first 2 totals differed by 1. "He found false weights," Tirzah continued. "Measures carved to look full but hollowed underneath. A basket marked as 1/10 of an ephah could carry less than it should. The difference was small, but repeated across hundreds of offerings. It would become enough to feed many people, or enrich a few." The eastern sky brightened. Voices rose from the priests preparing the morning burnt offering. Soon the courtyard would be crowded, and Micah would be discovered in a place where he had no assigned duty. "We must leave," Tirzah said. Micah looked toward the path Oren had taken. "I saw him remove something from the ground." "Who?" "Oren." Tirzah's eyes narrowed. "Do not accuse him without proof." "I did not accuse him. You were thinking it loudly." They slipped out of the courtyard and moved between rows of tents before the camp fully awakened. Micah's family belonged to the tribe of Zebulun, but Eitan's work often kept him near the sanctuary. Their mother, Yael, had spent the night waiting beside a dying lamp. When Micah entered the tent, she rose immediately. "Did you find him?" Micah hid the sandal beneath his cloak. "Not yet." A lie spoken to one's mother seemed heavier than other lies. It remained in the air after the sound was gone. Yael studied his face. "You found something. Only questions. Do not treat me as a frightened child." Tirzah stepped inside behind him and lowered her head respectfully. Yael's eyes moved from Tirzah to Micah. "Is he dead?" "We do not know," Tirzah said. Yael sat slowly. Her fingers gripped the edge of a woven mat. "When your father vanished during the fighting with Amalek, men told me not to surrender hope. They said perhaps he had been captured, perhaps wounded, perhaps wandering. Hope became a knife I carried inside me for years. Do not give me that knife again. Tell me what you know." Micah placed the sandal before her. Yael did not cry. She lifted it with both hands, traced Eitan's crooked stitching, and pressed the leather against her forehead. Micah turned away. "He was afraid," Yael said. Micah looked back. "Eitan. Yesterday, before sunset, he came for water. He asked whether you had spoken to anyone about the silver you saw near Sabu's furnace." Micah felt the muscles in his neck tighten. "What silver? You know what I mean." 3 days earlier, Micah had visited Sabu, a foreign-born metalworker who repaired tools for several tribes. Sabu had been shaping small pieces of silver into standardized weights. On the ground beside his furnace lay a broken sanctuary seal, its edge stamped with the pattern used to mark dedicated property. When Micah asked about it, Sabu claimed he had found it among scrap metal. "I said nothing to anyone," Micah told his mother. Yael lowered the sandal. "Eitan said silence might no longer protect us. Did he say who threatened him?" "No. He asked me to remember something from Egypt." He asked whether I remembered the overseer named Meard. Micah remembered the name from childhood stories. Meard had controlled grain distribution among Hebrew laborers near the store cities. He used a false measuring jar, keeping a portion from every family. When hunger drove a man to complain, Meard accused him of stealing from Pharaoh. Why would Eitan speak of Egypt? Because, Yarel said, he told me that bondage does not always return wearing chains. Sometimes it returns carrying scales. The morning trumpet sounded. Across the camp, people emerged from their tents and turned toward the sanctuary as the priests offered the first lamb of the day. Smoke thickened over the tabernacle. Israel had come to Sinai as a nation of former slaves, carrying scars, debts, quarrels, foreign habits, and memories of gods made from stone and gold. At the mountain they had heard a voice that shook the earth. They had promised obedience. They had built a sanctuary according to the pattern shown to Moses. Yet holiness had not erased greed. Sacred curtains could surround corrupt hearts as easily as honest ones. Micah took the sandal back. I will speak with Sabu. I will come, Tirzah said. No, Eitan trusted me. He also told you to remain silent, and now he may be dead because I obeyed. Micah had no answer. They found Sabu's workshop near the outer edge of the camp, where smoke and hammering would not disturb those nearest the sanctuary. Sabu had been born among a mixed people who left Egypt with Israel. His father was Nubian, his mother Asiatic, and his skin was darker than most men in the camp. Some called him brother. Others used the word foreigner when they wanted to remind him that acceptance could be withdrawn. His furnace was cold when Micah arrived. Tools lay scattered across a low wooden bench. A clay crucible had been overturned. Fine gray ash covered the ground. Tirzah crouched near the entrance and touched a deep footprint. Someone searched this place. Micah called Sabu's name. A groan answered from behind a stack of charcoal sacks. They found him bound at the wrists, a cloth tied around his mouth, blood crusted along the side of his head. Micah cut the ropes while Tirzah brought water. Sabu drank, coughed, and looked toward the entrance in panic. They took it, he said. What? The weight. What weight? Sabu touched the wound above his ear. Eitan brought me a silver shekel from the sanctuary stores. He believed it had been shaved along its rim. He asked me to compare it with the official standard. And it was light. How light? Not enough for an ordinary trader to notice. Perhaps 1 part in 20. But if every payment for restitution, every valuation, every dedicated gift was measured against altered weights, someone could take a portion without changing the written number. Micah looked at the overturned crucible. Who attacked you? They covered their faces. 2 men. One held me while the other searched. The second man carried a staff with a metal tip. The circular mark near Eitan's blood flashed in Micah's mind. Did you recognize their voices? One spoke little. The other said, I should remember that a foreigner survives by being useful and silent. Tirzah's jaw hardened. Did they take anything else? A mold for casting weights. A fragment of the sanctuary seal. My notes. Sabu looked at Micah. They asked where Eitan had hidden the ledger. What ledger? The true record. He copied the numbers that did not match. Grain, oil, silver, animals rejected as unfit and later sold, portions assigned to priests but diverted elsewhere. He said the theft was larger than he first believed. Micah thought of Oren bending behind the altar. Where did Eitan hide it? He did not tell me. Did he mention Oren? Sabu hesitated. What? Eitan trusted Oren at first. Oren helped move offerings and knew which storehouses received them. But 2 nights ago, Eitan said Oren had lied about a shipment of grain. Tirzah rose. We must take Sabu to a healer. I can walk, Sabu protested. You can barely sit. A healer will ask how I was injured. Tell the truth. Sabu gave a bitter laugh. Truth has different weight depending on who carries it. Micah looked toward the camp. Under the law recently given to Israel, there was to be one standard for the native-born and the stranger. A foreigner was not to be oppressed. Scales were to be honest. Justice was not to favor the poor merely because they were poor, nor the powerful because they were powerful. These commands had been spoken openly. Yet a command could be carved into memory while prejudice remained carved deeper. "We will not leave you here," Micah said. "Come to my mother's tent." As they helped Sabu walk, a cry rose from the sanctuary. Men ran toward the center of the camp. Women stepped from their tents, asking what had happened. A Levite hurried past shouting that a body had been found near the place where ashes were carried outside the camp. Micah released Sabu and ran. The ash disposal site lay beyond the main tents in a clean place designated for remains from the altar. By the time Micah reached it, a crowd had formed at a distance. Priests and Levites stood nearer, arguing about contamination and proper procedure. Moses had not yet arrived. Aaron stood beside his son Eleazar, his face severe. On the ground lay a body wrapped in a blood-stained cloak. Micah knew the cloak. He pushed through the crowd. A Levite caught him, but Micah tore free and fell to his knees beside Eitan. His brother's face was bruised. A wound darkened the hair above his right temple. There was a cut across his palm, and beneath his fingernails were traces of blue wool. His remaining sandal was gone. Micah touched Eitan's cheek. Cold. The world narrowed until there was no camp, no mountain, no law, no nation, only the unbearable stillness of the man who had once carried Micah across the mud beside the Nile, who had divided his bread when rations were short, who had stood between Micah and their father's anger, who had believed numbers could reveal truth. Tirzah arrived behind him, breathing hard. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Micah shook it off. "Who found him?" he demanded. No one answered. He turned toward the Levites. "Who found my brother?" Oren stood among them. "I did," Oren said. Micah rose. "You were behind the altar before dawn." Oren's eyes widened. "What were you doing there?" "I found Eitan's blood." A murmur spread through the crowd. Aaron raised a hand. "This is not the place for accusation." "He removed something from the ground," Micah said. "I saw him." Oren's face tightened. "I found a clasp from Eitan's writing case." "Where is it?" "I gave it to Abidan." All eyes turned toward a heavy-set man near the priests. Abidan supervised several storehouses and had served as an Egyptian-trained accountant before the Exodus. His beard was carefully trimmed, his robe cleaner than those of most men who worked around grain. Abidan opened his palm. A small bronze clasp lay there. "Why did you not report the blood?" Micah asked Oren. "I saw no blood." "You stared at the ground." "I noticed disturbed ash and removed evidence." "I preserved what I found." Micah lunged. Tirzah and 2 men caught him before he reached Oren. Micah fought them until Aaron stepped between the brothers of Israel with the authority of the high priest. "Enough!" Aaron's voice was not loud, but the crowd fell silent. He looked at Eitan's body, and grief shadowed his face. Aaron knew what it was to lose sons. Nadab and Abihu had died before the Lord after bringing unauthorized fire into the sanctuary. Since that day, every act near the tabernacle carried an added weight. Holiness was not decoration. It was dangerous because it was real. "No one will turn this death into another act of violence," Aaron said. "The body must be examined. Those who touched it must follow the commands concerning uncleanness. Moses will hear the matter." Micah looked at him with disbelief. "My brother has been murdered, and you speak of uncleanness?" Aaron's expression did not change. "A dead man deserves justice. The living still owe obedience." The word struck Micah as cold, but Eleazar stepped forward and spoke more gently. "Obedience is not the enemy of justice. It prevents grief from making more graves." Micah looked down at the blood on his hands. By touching the body, he had become ceremonially unclean. It did not mean he had sinned. It meant death had marked him, requiring separation and washing before he returned to ordinary communal life. The distinction mattered, though grief made every rule feel like a wall. Moses arrived soon afterward, leaning on his staff, accompanied by Joshua and several elders. Age had deepened the lines in his face, but his eyes remained alert. The crowd opened before him. He listened as Aaron explained what had been found. He examined Eitan's wounds without touching the body, then questioned Oren, Eitan, Micah, Tirzah, and the Levites who had carried the ashes. "Where is Eitan's writing case?" Moses asked. Eitan answered, "Missing." "What records did he keep?" "Daily lists of offerings received, portions assigned, goods stored, and materials released for use." "Were the records current?" He had fallen behind. Micah stared at him. Eitan never fell behind. Eitan's gaze remained on Moses. He had become distracted. "By theft," Tirzah said. The elders murmured. Moses looked at her. "Explain." She told him what Eitan had discovered. Sabu, supported by 2 men, confirmed the altered shekel and the attack on his workshop. Eitan listened without visible fear. When they finished, Moses turned toward the storehouse supervisor. "Bring the standard weights, the grain records, the silver accounts, and every tablet Eitan prepared during the past 3 months." Eitan bowed. "Yes, my lord." "And place guards at the storehouses." One of the elders stepped forward. "Should Eitan remain in charge while he is questioned?" Moses studied Eitan. "No." For the first time, uncertainty crossed Eitan's face. "Oren will surrender his staff and remain within his family's tents until called." Moses continued. "No one accused will be harmed. No one will leave the camp." Micah pointed toward Eitan's body. "And what must I do while his killer waits safely?" "You will mourn your brother," Moses said. "I will find the man who killed him. You will not appoint yourself judge. Then judge quickly." Joshua moved as if to restrain him, but Moses lifted a hand. "I once believed anger gave me the right to act before truth had been heard," Moses said. "A man died beneath my hand in Egypt. I spent 40 years learning that hatred of injustice does not make every act just." Micah's anger faltered. Moses looked toward Eitan. "Your brother was searching for truth. Honor him by refusing to replace truth with vengeance." The body was prepared for burial before sunset. Because Eitan had not died from disease and because the investigation required careful examination, the elders permitted his family to wash and wrap him under supervision. Tirzah cleaned the blood from his hair. Yael washed his feet. Micah stood apart, unable to move until his mother called his name. "Help me." Together they wrapped Eitan in linen. Beneath his tunic, Micah found a narrow cord tied around his waist. 3 knots had been made in it. One held a tiny piece of clay impressed with half a seal. Another held 7 grains of barley. The third held a splinter of acacia with stained red. He showed them to Tirzah. "Clues?" she whispered. "Or a message?" Yael looked at the objects. "When you were children, Eitan used knots to help you remember errands." Micah remembered. 1 knot for water, 2 for firewood, 3 for grain. "What would 3 knots mean?" Tirzah asked. 3 places, Micah said. "The seal, the grain, the wood." The clay fragment might point to the sanctuary accounts, the barley to the storehouse, the acacia wood to the tabernacle itself, whose frames and furnishings were made from acacia. "He knew he was in danger," Tirzah said. Micah closed his hand around the cord. "And he left us a path." The burial took place beyond the camp at sunset. Yael tore her outer garment. Micah poured dust over his head. Men from Zebulun spoke of Eitan's diligence, his patience, and the way he taught children to form letters in wet clay. Eitan attended and stood with lowered eyes. Oren did not come. Afterward, Micah remained beside the grave until darkness covered the wilderness. Tirzah waited several paces away. "You should go," he said. "So should you. I will not return to my mother yet. Then I will not return either." He looked at the mound of stones over Eitan's body. "When we were slaves, I believed freedom meant no man could command us. Then we came into the wilderness and received more commands than we had ever known." Tirzah sat beside him. "A slave obeys because a master owns his body. A free people obey because they choose what kind of people they will become." "What kind are we becoming?" That depends on what we do now. Micah opened his hand and examined the 3 knotted objects beneath the moonlight. The next morning they began with the grain. Karen, daughter of a widowed woman from Issachar, worked among those who ground flour for families attached to the sanctuary service. She was small, sharp-eyed, and known for recognizing grain quality by smell. Eitan had spoken with her several times during the week before his death. When Micah and Tirzah approached, Karen was sorting barley on a woven mat. She did not look surprised to see them. I wondered how long it would take. You knew about Eitan's investigation? Micah asked. I knew enough to be frightened. She picked up 2 grains and held them out. One was plump and pale. The other was narrow, dark, and partly hollow. The offering records say the storehouse received first-quality barley from the eastern section of the camp, she said. But some sacks contained old grain mixed with husks and dust. Could that happen accidentally? Not in the amounts I saw. Who controls the sacks? Abidan records them. Oren and other Levites move them. But the grain passes through many hands. Karen led them to a row of storage tents. Guards appointed by Moses stood outside. Inside, sealed jars and sacks were arranged according to tribe, offering type, and intended use. Some grain belonged to the priests. Some came from grain offerings, portions of which were burned and portions eaten by authorized persons. Some had been given voluntarily for communal needs. Other supplies supported Levites, widows, strangers, and families suffering hardship. Karen pointed toward a stack marked with a red cord. Those were counted yesterday. Micah inspected the nearest sack. The seal appeared intact. Open it, Tirzah said. The guards will not permit us. Karen produced a broken fragment of clay. We do not need to open it. She pressed the fragment against the seal. The patterns matched, but imperfectly. Copies, Micah said. False seals, Karen replied. A genuine seal is broken when a sack is opened. The contents can be replaced with inferior grain. Then the sack closed using a copied stamp. Micah remembered the fragment found at Sabu's workshop. Someone had used the metalworker to repair or reproduce sealing tools, perhaps without revealing their purpose. Eitan discovered this? He asked. He suspected it after a widow named Huldah received a ration filled with husks. Where is she? Outside the camp. Why? Karen's face darkened. A swelling appeared on her arm. The priest examined her and declared her unclean. Micah knew the procedures concerning serious skin disease. A priest did not act as a physician in the Egyptian manner but examined signs that might threaten the community's ritual purity and physical health. A person could be isolated for 7 days, examined again, and either restored or kept apart. The system protected the camp, yet isolation could also be misused if someone corrupted the examination. Which priest examined her? Tirzah asked. Malkiel. Micah knew the name. Malkiel was a junior priest, ambitious and severe. He often assisted Abidan in evaluating animals and goods dedicated to the sanctuary. Huldah complained about the grain, Karen continued. The following day, red marks appeared on her skin. Malkiel examined her quickly. She was sent out before sunset. Are you saying he declared her unclean to silence her? I am saying Eitan asked the same question. They left the storehouse and walked beyond the camp to the place where isolated people lived in temporary shelters. The area was not a prison, though it felt like one. Men and women waited apart from their families, some because of skin conditions, some because of bodily discharges, some recovering from contact with death. The laws distinguished among different causes and durations of uncleanness, but fear often caused ordinary people to treat every isolated person as cursed. Huldah sat beneath a rough awning. She was perhaps 50, with thin gray hair and hands hardened from years of work. A cloth covered her left arm. You are Eitan's brother, she said. Micah nodded. He told me someone might come. Did he say who? He said the truth would come wearing the face of grief. Micah sat across from her. Tell me about the grain. She explained that after her husband died, She depended partly on communal distributions and partly on gleaning behind harvesters when Israel camped near cultivable land. The law commanded landowners not to reap every corner or gather every fallen stalk, leaving something for the poor and the foreigner. In the wilderness, where agriculture was limited, the principle was adapted through shared stores and gathered provisions. For several weeks, the portions became smaller, Huldah said. The measure looked full, but when I poured it out, it did not match my own jar. I complained to the distributor. He told me hunger had made me dishonest. Who was the distributor? A man named Pekah, working under Oren. Then the rash appeared. Huldah removed the cloth. Red patches covered her forearm, but they were irregular and shallow. Micah knew little of diagnosis. Tirzah leaned closer without touching. "Does it itch?" she asked. "It burned at first." "What caused it?" "I do not know. That evening someone left a small jar of oil beside my tent. I thought it was a gift. I rubbed it on my cracked skin. Before morning my arm was red." "Where is the jar?" "Eitan took it." Micah felt a surge of hope and dread. Another object connected to his brother, another missing piece. Did Malkiel examine the hair within the mark? Did he isolate you for 7 days before declaring a continuing condition? He looked from a distance. He said the mark was deeper than the skin. Was it? No. Under the law, not every rash meant a lasting unclean condition. Priests were required to examine carefully, sometimes waiting and re-examining. A hasty declaration could destroy a person's place in the community. Eitan promised to bring another priest, Huldah said. He never returned. Micah stood. "We will." On their way back, Tirzah said, "The theft depends on more than false measures. It depends on fear. The poor are afraid to question distributions. Foreigners are afraid to accuse officials. Anyone declared unclean is removed from the camp." And Eitan found the pattern, which is why he was killed. They brought Huldah's case to Eleazar. Unlike Malkiel, he listened without impatience. He went personally to the isolation area with another priest, examined the marks, and ordered Huldah washed and observed. The patches had already begun fading. No hair had turned white. The condition had not spread. Malkiel objected when he heard. "You undermine priestly authority," he told Eleazar. "Authority is undermined when examination becomes careless," Eleazar replied. "I followed the law. You did not wait the required period." The camp faced possible contamination. The command does not permit fear to replace judgment. Micah watched Malkiel's face. Anger flashed there, followed by calculation. Later that day, Moses ordered all storehouse seals examined. Sabu compared them with known originals, for copied seals were found. Several sacks contained inferior grain beneath a layer of good grain. 2 jars of oil had been diluted. Silver weights varied from the official standard. Eitan claimed ignorance. "The stores are too large for one man to inspect every item," he said before the elders. "Subordinates may have acted without my knowledge." Oren blamed Pekah. Pekah could not be found. His tent was empty. His wife said he had been ordered to move supplies before dawn, but no written instruction existed. Tracks led from the edge of the camp toward a dry ravine. Micah joined the search party despite being told to remain behind. Tirzah, Sabu, and Karen came with him. Joshua led 12 men along the ravine, where wind had partly erased the footprints. Near midday they found Pekah's body beneath an overhanging rock. His throat had been cut. Beside him lay a metal-tipped staff. Oren's staff. The evidence seemed decisive, almost too decisive. Joshua examined the weapon. "Oren surrendered this yesterday." "To whom?" Micah asked. "To Eitan's assistant. Then anyone with access could have taken it." One of the men found a leather pouch beneath Pekah's cloak. Inside were shaved fragments of silver and a small amount of blue dye. "Sacred blue wool," someone said. Sabu rubbed the dye between his fingers. "No, this is common indigo mixed with mineral powder. It is made to resemble the color used in sanctuary weaving." "Another false sign," Tirzah said. Micah looked at Pekah's body. Whoever had killed him wanted the search to end with Oren. The staff, the silver, the blue dye, each clue pointed loudly. Eitan's clues had been quiet. On the return journey, a desert wind rose from the south. Sand swept across the ravine, striking their faces. They wrapped cloth around their mouths and pressed onward. By late afternoon, the camp appeared as a blurred mass beneath the cloud of dust. At the boundary, guards stopped Micah. "Your mother is ill." He ran to the family tent. Yael lay trembling beneath blankets. Her face was flushed, and vomit stained a bowl beside her. Karen smelled the remaining stew. "Bitter," she said. "What did she eat?" "A portion of meat brought after the peace offering," a neighbor answered. Micah looked at the bowl. Meat from a peace offering had strict time limits. Depending on the type, it was eaten the same day or by the next day. Anything remaining beyond the permitted time was burned. In the heat of the wilderness, the command also protected people from spoiled food. "When was this cooked?" "2 days ago," Yael whispered. "Who brought it?" "A boy. He said it came from Eitan's friends." Tirzah's expression hardened. "Someone tried to poison her." Karen shook her head. "Perhaps not poison. Spoiled meat may be enough." The distinction offered no comfort. A healer gave Yael water mixed with crushed herbs and instructed them to keep her cool. Through the night, Micah sat beside her, listening to her breathing. Near midnight, she opened her eyes. "Eitan knew they might threaten me," she said. "Do not speak." He hid something in the old grinding stone. Micah leaned closer. "What?" "The stone we carried from Egypt. He told me never to sell it." Outside the tent, Tirzah and Sabu were sleeping. Micah quietly moved to the rear, where household objects were stacked. The old hand mill was cracked and had not been used for months. He turned the upper stone over. A small plug of clay filled a hollow in its center. Inside was a roll of thin leather, Eitan's ledger. Micah woke the others. By lamplight, they opened the document. Eitan had written columns of numbers, dates, names, and symbols. Some entries were easy to understand. Sacks received, measures distributed, silver weighed, animals rejected, hides transferred. Others used a private code. Sabu pointed to repeated marks shaped like a forked branch. These appear beside missing silver. Karen traced a circle with 3 dots. And this beside grain. Tirzah found a list of names. Abidan, Oren, Malkiel, Pekah, Hader, Zimri, and several others. Some were marked with a straight line, others with a cross, others with a question. "Oren's name has a question," Micah said. "Abidan has a cross," Tirzah noted. "Perhaps the cross means guilty or dangerous." At the bottom, Eitan had written a sentence. "The hand that steals from the altar also steals from the hungry, but the mind above the hand seeks more than silver." "What could be more than silver?" Karen asked. "Power," Tirzah said. Sabu examined the ledger's edge. Part of the leather has been cut away. A narrow strip was missing from the bottom. Whatever Eitan had written there had been removed. Micah remembered the acacia splinter tied at his brother's waist. The Tabernacle. At dawn, they brought the ledger to Moses. He read it slowly while Joshua and several elders waited. Aaron stood nearby, his face grave. Abidan and Oren were summoned separately. Oren denied killing Eitan and Pekah. When shown the false shipments connected to his workers, he admitted that he had signed records without checking them. "Abidan told me the measures had already been verified," he said. "Why did you lie to Eitan?" Micah asked. Oren lowered his head. "Because I borrowed grain from the storehouse." The room fell silent. "My youngest son was ill," Oren continued. "My household portion was gone. I took one measure and intended to replace it. Pekah saw me. Later he demanded that I sign movement records. He said if I refused, he would accuse me before the elders." "So you helped him steal?" "I helped move sealed sacks. I told myself the contents were legitimate. I knew that was a lie." "Did you kill my brother?" "No." "Did you meet him behind the altar?" Oren's eyes filled with shame. "Yes." Micah stepped forward, but Joshua blocked him. Oren continued, "Eitan asked me to confess. I agreed to bring him proof that Abidan controlled the false seals. Before I could give it to him, someone struck me from behind near the courtyard wall. When I woke, Eitan was gone. I was afraid. At dawn I returned and found the clasp." "Why did you give it to Abidan?" Moses asked. "Because fear makes fools serve the men they fear." Abidan was questioned next. He dismissed Eitan's ledger as speculation. "Numbers written in secret prove nothing," he said. "Oren admits stealing. Pekah possessed silver fragments. Sabu made false weights. Any of them could have created this scheme." Sabu rose angrily. "You accuse me because I am foreign-born. I accuse you because the tools were in your workshop. They were planted or commissioned under false purposes." Abidan spread his hands. "Every guilty man says the same." Moses watched him. Eitan wrote that someone sought more than silver. "I cannot interpret a dead man's riddle." "What do you seek, Abidan?" "To serve Israel efficiently." Efficiency without righteousness served Pharaoh well. Abidan's expression hardened. "I left Egypt like the rest. Egypt does not always leave the man." Moses ordered Abidan confined under guard. Yet evidence of murder remained uncertain, and the missing purpose behind the theft continued to trouble everyone. That afternoon, the camp gathered for a public reading of commands concerning holiness. Moses spoke of honoring parents, keeping Sabbaths, rejecting idols, leaving provision for the poor and stranger, refusing theft and deception, paying laborers promptly, protecting the deaf and blind, judging without partiality, rejecting slander, and refusing hatred hidden in the heart. "You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge," he declared, "but you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Micah stood among the people with Eitan's bloodstained sandal beneath his cloak. The command against vengeance felt directed at him personally. He wanted to reject it. Love seemed too weak for murder, too gentle for men who stole food from widows and silenced witnesses. Yet the words did not require him to abandon justice. They denied him the right to become like the killer. Moses continued, commanding honest scales, honest weights, honest measures. A visible unease moved through the crowd. Abidan's scheme had transformed a familiar instruction into an accusation. People began looking at their own household measures, their trading stones, their bargains with neighbors. Holiness, Micah realized, was not confined to the smoke above the altar. It entered markets, kitchens, fields, marriages, wages, illnesses, courtrooms, and private resentments. It demanded that worship and ordinary life use the same standard. That night Tirzah studied the acacia splinter. "The stain is not blood," she said. "What is it?" "Red dye." Sabu examined it under the lamp. "It may be from a ram's skin covering." The tabernacle included coverings of dyed ram skins above the woven curtains. Repairs were sometimes made by skilled workers under priestly supervision. "Eitan wanted us to look at a repaired section," Micah said. "Entering the sanctuary structure without authorization was impossible. Even priests followed strict boundaries. Micah could not simply search holy furnishings like a thief searching a merchant's cart. They approached Eleazar. At first he refused. "The sacred structure is not a hiding place for private investigations." "What if someone has already used it as one?" Tirzah asked. Eleazar looked at the acacia splinter and the red stain. "Where did you find this?" "Tied to Eitan's body." The priest's expression changed. He led them only as far as the outer curtain and inspected recent repair records. One entry showed that a damaged support peg near the northern side had been replaced 2 weeks earlier. The work had been supervised by Malkiel, with materials supplied through Abidan. Eleazar and another priest entered while Micah waited outside. They returned carrying a small leather packet. Inside were thin sheets of hammered silver engraved with unfamiliar symbols, a list of names, and a map of the camp's water storage points. Sabu recognized the symbols first. Egyptian administrative marks. Micah looked at the names. Several belonged to influential men from different tribes, men who had complained against Moses, men who spoke fondly of Egypt whenever hardship came, men who argued that authority should belong to a council of wealthy household leaders rather than to Moses and the appointed priesthood. "What is this?" Eleazar asked. Sabu turned one silver sheet toward the light. "A pledge. In Egypt, officials sometimes recorded secret alliances on metal because leather could burn." Tirzah read the names again. The theft funded a rebellion. Not a loud rebellion with banners and weapons, but a patient one. By controlling food, weights, debts, and accusations of uncleanness, the conspirators could create suffering, then blame Moses and the sanctuary system. Hungry families would be told that the new laws had failed them. Foreigners would be told they had no true place among Israel. Tribal leaders would be offered grain and silver in exchange for loyalty. Priests could be discredited through scandal. The people, already prone to fear, might demand a return to Egypt or a new ruler. The mind above the hand sought more than silver. It sought control of the nation. Malkiel disappeared before he could be arrested. A search of his tent uncovered jars of irritant oil, copied seals, and a fragment of Eitan's missing leather strip. The writing on it named a meeting place, the caves beyond Mount Shepher, 2 days north. Abidan refused to speak when confronted. Moses ordered the camp prepared for unrest. Guards were placed near the sanctuary, water stores, and tribal leaders' tents. Joshua selected a small group to pursue Malkiel and locate the conspirators' meeting place. Micah insisted on joining. "You are not trained for war," Joshua said. "I know Eitan's code. Tirzah knows it. Then we both go." Joshua looked toward Moses. Moses studied Micah for a long moment. "You may go as a witness, not an executioner." Micah touched the knife at his belt. "And if the killer attacks me, you may defend life. You may not disguise revenge as defense." The group left before sunrise. Joshua, 6 experienced men, Micah, Tirzah, Sabu, and Karen. Karen came because the map suggested hidden grain caches along the route. Sabu could identify altered silver and Egyptian markings. Tirzah was the best tracker among them. They followed a trail of broken scrub northward. The wilderness stretched around them in harsh beauty. Stone ridges glowing red at sunrise, dry valleys carved by floods, thorn trees twisted by wind, and distant mountains appearing close enough to touch though hours of walking separated one ridge from another. By midday they found the first cache inside a shallow cave. 20 sacks of grain were stacked beneath woven coverings. Some bore false sanctuary seals. Others carried tribal marks. Karen opened one and examined the contents. Good grain, stolen before the inferior grain was distributed. Sabu found bronze tools, silver shavings, and molds. This was a workshop, he said. On the cave wall, someone had drawn the Egyptian symbol for a storehouse beside the image of a kneeling man. "Old habits," Micah muttered. "Not habits," Sabu said. "A promise. Food above, submission below." They destroyed the false seals but left the grain under guard for later recovery. On the second evening, they camped beside a narrow wadi. The men ate unleavened bread and dried dates. No fire was lit. Tirzah sat beside Micah beneath the stars. "You have not slept since Eitan died," she said. "I sleep. You close your eyes. That is not the same." Micah looked toward the dark ridge. "When I close them, I see the wound on his head. I see my husband's face." Micah turned. Tirzah rarely spoke of him. Her husband, Asahel, had died during the first year after the Exodus. Some said fever killed him. Others said he had been attacked after exposing theft among tribal suppliers. Was his death connected to this? Micah asked. "I do not know." Asahel discovered that men were selling water during a shortage, water taken from communal jars. He confronted them. 3 days later, he was found at the bottom of a ravine. "Why did you never tell Eitan?" "I did. That was why he trusted me." Micah understood then that Tirzah had not merely assisted Eitan. She had carried the same unanswered grief. "Did you want vengeance?" he asked. "I still do." "How do you resist it?" Poorly. Despite himself, Micah smiled. Tirzah continued, "The command does not say we will not feel hatred. It commands us not to keep feeding it. What if hatred is the only thing keeping me strong? Then when it leaves, you will discover you built your strength on a grave." Before Micah could answer, a stone rolled on the ridge. Tirzah was on her feet instantly. An arrow struck the ground where she had been sitting. The camp erupted. Joshua's men raised shields as more arrows fell. Figures moved along the ridge. Micah drew his knife, useless at that distance. Sabu pulled him behind a rock. "Stay down." A man descended the eastern slope, trying to circle behind them. Karen saw him first and threw a stone with a sling. It struck his shoulder, spinning him sideways. Tirzah rushed forward and knocked him to the ground. The attackers withdrew after a brief exchange, vanishing into the darkness. The captured man was young, frightened, and bleeding from the scalp. Under questioning, he claimed he had been hired by a merchant to protect hidden property from thieves. "What merchant?" Joshua asked. "Hader of Reuben." Hader's name appeared in Eitan's ledger. "Where is Malkiel?" The young man hesitated. Joshua did not threaten him. "You have been wounded. We will treat you. But men who sent you to kill strangers will not risk themselves to save you." The prisoner looked toward the ridge. "They meet tomorrow night at the caves." Malkiel said the camp would soon turn against Moses. "How?" "They will poison the western water jars and accuse the priests of neglect. At the same time, men inside the camp will spread word that Moses has hidden grain for his own household." Micah felt cold despite the warm night. "How many conspirators?" Joshua asked. "Perhaps 30. More supporters remain in the camp." Joshua sent 2 runners south to warn Moses. The rest continued toward the caves. They reached Mount Shepher by late afternoon and concealed themselves among rocks above the entrance. Below, men arrived in small groups. Some led donkeys carrying sacks. Others wore tribal garments over weapons. Malkiel came at sunset, no longer dressed as a priest. Abidan was not among them, but Hader and several names from the Silver Pledge appeared. The conspirators gathered around a fire inside the main cave. Joshua's group crept close enough to hear. "The death of the scribe has made Moses suspicious," Hader said. "The plan must change." Malkiel answered, "Fear will still divide them." The widow's false disease succeeded until Eleazar interfered. Others can be isolated. A mark on the skin, corruption found in a tent covering, a rumor of impurity. Families will turn against one another. "You killed Pekah too soon. He was weak." "And Eitan." Pause followed. Micah leaned forward. Malkiel spoke more quietly. "Eitan would not surrender the ledger. Abidan struck him, but the blow did not kill him. We took him behind the altar to learn where he hid it." Micah's hand closed around his knife. "He refused," Malkiel continued. "Oren approached, so we moved Eitan through the northern opening. He fought. Abidan held him while I used the blade." Tirzah gripped Micah's arm before he moved. Below, Hader cursed. "You spilled blood beside the sanctuary? The place helped hide the evidence. It endangered us all. Do not pretend innocence. Your silver paid for the knives." Micah's breathing grew loud in his ears. He saw only Malkiel's throat, Malkiel's hands, Malkiel bending over Eitan while sacred fire burned nearby. He pulled away from Tirzah. She caught him again. "Witness," she whispered. "Not executioner." Then a voice behind them said, "Too late." One of the conspirators had approached from the rear. He struck Joshua with a club and shouted a warning. Men poured from the cave. The hillside became chaos. Micah fought without thought. A spear grazed his ribs. He slammed his shoulder into one attacker and rolled down the slope. Tirzah parried a knife with her forearm guard. Sabu wielded a hammer taken from the hidden workshop. Karen used her sling from behind a boulder. Joshua rallied his men into a defensive line, but they were outnumbered. Malkiel fled toward a narrow path between cliffs. Micah followed. He heard Tirzah call his name but did not stop. The path twisted upward. Malkiel glanced back, saw Micah, and ran faster. His priestly training had not prepared him for climbing, and his breath soon became ragged. At the top, the path ended above a deep ravine. Malkiel turned with a knife in his hand. "You have your brother's stubbornness," he said. Micah drew his own blade. "You killed him. He could have lived. You cut his throat. I offered him a place with us. He believed laws could make men equal. Honest waits for strangers, food left for the poor, limits on the powerful. He was a child. He was better than you. He was weak." Micah attacked. Their blades struck. Malkiel was stronger than expected. He slashed Micah's arm, then kicked him backward. Micah recovered and drove forward, forcing Malkiel toward the edge. "Do it," Malkiel said, smiling through blood on his lip. "Kill me, then tell Moses it was justice." Micah raised the knife. He saw Eitan lying beside the ashes. He saw Yael pressing the sandal to her forehead. He heard Moses, "You may not disguise revenge as defense." Malkiel's smile widened. "You are not strong enough." Micah lowered the blade slightly. "Drop your knife." Malkiel lunged. Tirzah appeared from the path and shouted a warning. Micah twisted aside. Malkiel's foot struck loose gravel. For one instant he balanced at the edge, arms spread. Micah seized his wrist. Malkiel hung above the ravine. "Pull me up," he gasped. Micah looked into the face of his brother's killer. No one would know if his grip slipped. No witness stood close enough to see his fingers. Malkiel understood. Terror replaced arrogance. "You need my testimony," he said. Micah almost laughed. Even now the man measured life by usefulness. He tightened his grip and pulled. Tirzah helped drag Malkiel onto the path. They bound his hands. "Why?" Malkiel asked, staring at Micah. "Because you do not decide what kind of man I become." Below them, the battle ended when the two runners returned with reinforcements from the camp. Several conspirators surrendered. Hader was captured. Others escaped into the wilderness but were pursued. The group returned to Israel with prisoners, records, stolen grain, false seals, silver, and testimony. A public hearing was held before Moses, Aaron, the elders, and representatives of the tribes. It lasted several days. Witnesses spoke one by one. Sabu explained the false weights. Karen demonstrated the hollowed measures. Huldah showed the marks caused by the irritant oil. Oren confessed his theft and cooperation. Abidan initially denied everything, but Malkiel's testimony, the metal pledges, and Eitan's ledger left little room for deception. At last Abidan spoke. He had begun by taking small amounts, he said. A shaving from silver, a handful from grain, a healthy animal rejected for a minor flaw, then sold privately. Each theft seemed insignificant. He justified the first by claiming that his administrative skill deserved greater reward. The second was needed to hide the first. Then he discovered that shortages created influence. Men who controlled supplies controlled desperate families. He recruited Pekah, pressured Oren, paid Sabu through intermediaries to make tools whose true purpose was concealed, and gained Malkiel's cooperation by promising authority over other priests. Hader and the political conspirators expanded the scheme into a campaign against Moses. "Why kill Eitan?" Yael asked during the hearing. Abidan looked at her only once. "Because he counted what others ignored." The sentence spread through the camp. Eitan counted what others ignored. The missing portion from a widow's jar, the slight difference in a silver weight, the names repeatedly appearing beside altered records, the human cost hidden beneath orderly numbers, the judgment distinguished among crimes. Oren had stolen and enabled deception but later agreed to provide evidence. He was required to make restitution beyond what he had taken and was removed from storehouse service. His confession did not erase guilt, but neither was his guilt treated as equal to murder. Those who had stolen property were ordered to restore it with the additional amount required for fraud and misuse of sacred goods. Their guilt offerings did not purchase forgiveness cheaply. The offerings followed confession and restitution. Worship could not substitute for repairing harm. Malkiel and Eitan were condemned for murder after the testimony of multiple witnesses and the supporting evidence. Hayter faced judgment for conspiracy, attempted poisoning, theft, and financing violence. Before the sentences were carried out, Malkiel asked to speak with Micah. They met under guard beyond the elder's tent. Malkiel looked older than he had on the cliff. "You saved my life only so the assembly could take it. I saved you because your life was not mine to take. Do you believe that makes you merciful? No. Do you forgive me?" Micah considered the question. Forgiveness is not pretending Eitan's blood does not matter. It is refusing to carry you inside me forever. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I have. Malkiel looked away. "Your brother prayed for you." Micah's breath caught. "Behind the altar," Malkiel continued. "When Eitan struck him, Eitan knew he would die. He asked the God of Israel to keep your anger from destroying you." Micah could not speak. "He did not pray for himself?" he finally asked. "He prayed for your mother, then for you." Malkiel was taken away. In the weeks that followed, the stolen grain was redistributed. Every standard weight in the camp was tested. Storehouse duties were divided so that no single official controlled receiving, recording, sealing, and distribution. Foreign-born workers were appointed alongside native Israelites as witnesses to measurements. Widows and poor families were invited to report shortages before panels rather than individual supervisors. Sabu was asked to create new official weights. He hesitated. "Some will say a foreigner should not define Israel's standard." Moses answered, "The standard is not yours or theirs. It is just. Let those who object explain why justice changes with a man's birthplace." Karen supervised grain inspection, though some men protested that a woman should not hold such responsibility. She silenced them by identifying 3 spoiled sacks they had approved. Huldah was declared clean after proper examination and returned to the camp. The people welcomed her, though she never forgot how quickly neighbors had stepped away when Malkiel pronounced judgment. She began helping isolated families receive food and messages so separation would not become abandonment. Oren fulfilled his restitution. He sold livestock, surrendered stored goods, and worked without rank. One evening he came to Yael's tent carrying a measure of barley. "I cannot restore Eitan," he said. "No," Yael replied. "I helped the men who killed him." "Yes, I am sorry." Yael looked at the barley. "Do not bring me grain." Oren lowered his head. "Bring it to Huldah," she continued. "Then tomorrow help Sabu test the weights. Be sorry with your hands." Micah remembered the sentence for the rest of his life. Be sorry with your hands. The seasons changed. Israel moved from Sinai when the cloud lifted. The tabernacle was dismantled and carried according to command. Tribes marched beneath their standards. Children who had known only camp life asked whether the promised land truly contained fields, cities, vineyards, olive trees, and houses built from stone. As they traveled, the laws concerning land began to sound less abstract. Fields would not be harvested to their edges. Fruit trees would be treated with patience. The land itself would rest in appointed years. Debts and servitude would not be allowed to harden forever into permanent bondage. In the Jubilee year, liberty would be proclaimed, families would regain inherited property, and Israelites who had fallen into servitude would be released. To former slaves, the idea was astonishing. Egypt had been built on the belief that power accumulated naturally. Land into fewer hands, grain into royal storehouses, labor into forced service, wealth upward, suffering downward. The commands given to Israel resisted that pattern. Land ultimately belonged to God. People could not be treated as permanent property. Poverty did not cancel dignity. Wealth did not create unlimited rights. Yet every command anticipated temptation. Why forbid dishonest scales unless people would want to cheat? Why protect the poor unless the strong would exploit them? Why command rest for servants, animals, and land unless profit would demand endless labor? Why establish release unless debt would become a chain? Micah came to understand that Leviticus was not a book of distant ceremonies separated from human struggle. Its offerings taught that guilt cost something. Its purity laws taught that life, death, disease, food, bodies, and community were not meaningless. Its priestly rules warned that access to sacred power did not permit careless ambition. Its moral commands carried holiness into speech, trade, sexuality, family, farming, courts, and treatment of outsiders. Its festivals placed time itself under memory. Freedom from Egypt, dependence in the wilderness, gratitude for harvest, repentance, rest. The Day of Atonement arrived months after Eitan's death. From evening onward, the camp quieted. Ordinary work stopped. The people humbled themselves. Aaron bathed and clothed himself in simple linen rather than the splendid garments of his public office. He offered sacrifice for himself and his household before acting on behalf of the nation, a reminder that even the high priest approached not as a flawless man but as one requiring mercy. Micah stood with Yael, Tirzah, Karen, and Sabu among the assembly. 2 goats had been selected. One was offered as a sin offering. Over the other, Aaron confessed the iniquities and transgressions of Israel, symbolically placing them upon the living animal before it was led into the wilderness. As the goat disappeared beyond the camp, Micah thought of the weight people carried. Hidden theft, cowardice, rage, careless judgment, prejudice, ambition, silence in the face of wrong. The ritual did not mean crimes vanished without consequence. Abidan's restitution and judgment proved otherwise. Atonement meant guilt did not need to remain the permanent identity of a repentant people. Micah touched the scar on his arm where Malkiel's knife had cut him. Tirzah stood beside him. "Do you feel different?" she asked. "No, neither do I." He looked toward the empty wilderness where the goat had gone. Perhaps feeling comes later, or perhaps obedience comes before feeling. After sunset, the solemn fast ended. Lamps appeared throughout the camp. Families shared food. Children laughed again. Yael brought out Eitan's old cup and filled it with water. "To the man who counted what others ignored," Sabu said. They drank. Years passed. Israel's journey did not become easy. There were rebellions, plagues, complaints, battles, and graves. An entire generation struggled to trust the promise before them. Some who had seen the sea divide still feared giants more than God. Holiness did not transform the nation instantly. It offered a path they repeatedly left and repeatedly needed to find again. Micah married Tirzah, not because grief disappeared, but because shared truth had made room for life. Karen became the keeper of communal measures for their section of the camp. Sabu trained young metalworkers from several tribes and required every apprentice to make a balanced scale before producing decorative objects. "A beautiful cup may flatter the eye," he told them, "but an honest weight protects the poor." Yael grew old during the wilderness years. She kept Eitan's repaired sandal near her sleeping mat. When children asked why she preserved only one, she told them that a single sandal could remind a people where a man had walked. Micah eventually became a recorder like his brother. He resisted the work at first, believing it too quiet for a man who had hunted killers across the wilderness. But Moses told him, "A nation is often protected by the men who notice what violence tries to hide." Micah recorded offerings, distributions, disputes, and restitutions. He watched for patterns. He listened when widows complained. He treated foreign-born laborers as witnesses rather than suspects. When a wealthy herdsman and a poor worker argued, Micah refused to bend justice toward either one. The law forbade partiality in both directions. Compassion could not become false testimony, and power could not purchase innocence. He also learned the limits of records. Numbers revealed missing grain, but not always the hunger behind it. A list could show that a man paid restitution, but not whether his heart changed. A purity declaration could mark the day someone returned to camp, but not the loneliness suffered outside it. Justice required accuracy, yet people were more than entries. Near the end of the wilderness years, the Israelites camped east of the Jordan. Across the river lay the land promised to their ancestors. The younger generation prepared to enter. Many had been children at Sinai or born after it. They knew Egypt only through stories. One evening, a young recorder named Eliab asked Micah why so many commands had been given before Israel possessed fields, vineyards, permanent houses, or courts. Micah took him to a hill overlooking the camp. Below them, the tabernacle stood at the center, surrounded by ordered tribes. Smoke rose from the altar. Beyond the tents stretched the wilderness where countless failures and mercies had shaped the people. Because freedom must learn its boundaries before power arrives, Micah said, a land will give us harvests, property, servants, trade, courts, and influence. Those things can become gifts, or they can rebuild Egypt in another form. How would we know if Egypt returned? It will not return with Pharaoh's face. It may return when a merchant changes a weight, when a landowner takes every stalk and leaves nothing for the poor, when a judge fears the rich, when a family treats a servant as an animal, when a priest uses holiness to gain control, when a native-born Israelite despises the stranger, or when debt becomes permanent bondage. Eliab considered this. Can laws stop all that? No. The young man looked surprised. Then why keep them? Because laws teach the community what evil looks like, even when evil calls itself practical. They give the weak words to speak against the strong. They remind the strong that no one is beyond judgment. And they teach every generation that worship without justice is a false measure. Micah removed Eitan's cord from a pouch. He had kept the 3 knots all those years. The clay seal, the grains of barley, the red-stained splinter. Your brother left those? Yes. Did he know you would understand? He trusted that someone would keep searching. The following morning, Moses addressed the people. His voice was older, but the camp listened. He reminded them of covenant, obedience, blessing, failure, mercy, and the choice between life and death. Micah watched the younger faces. He knew some would obey and others would not. The land ahead would contain beauty and danger. Israel might build courts that protected justice or courts that sold it. Priests might serve humbly or seek influence. Farmers might leave generous edges for gleaners or calculate how little they could spare. Jubilee might be proclaimed faithfully or postponed by those who profited from debt. Strangers might be loved as people who shared Israel's memory of foreignness, or blamed whenever fear spread. Every generation would receive the same decision in new clothing. After Moses died, grief passed through the camp like a cold wind. Joshua assumed leadership. Priests prepared the sacred objects. Officers moved among the tribes. The Jordan, swollen beyond its banks, stood between Israel and the land. On the night before the crossing, Micah dreamed of Eitan. His brother stood in a field of ripened barley. No blood marked his face. He wore both sandals, though the stitching on one remained crooked. You repaired it badly, Micah said. Eitan smiled. It carried me far enough. Did I honor you? That is the wrong question. What is the right one? Did you honor the truth? Micah woke before dawn. The camp was already stirring. Families packed tents. Children carried bundles. Men checked weapons. Priests lifted the ark according to command. Yael had died the previous winter and been buried in the wilderness beside many of her generation. Before her death, she had given Eitan's sandal to Micah. Do not make a shrine of grief, she told him. Use it as a measure. Now Micah tied the sandal to the outside of his pack. Tirzah noticed. Her hair had begun to gray, but her eyes remained sharp. You are bringing it into the land? Yes. What will you do with it? Bury it. She looked surprised. I have carried it long enough, he said. The priests stepped into the Jordan, and the water stopped upstream. The people crossed on dry ground, as their parents had crossed the sea when leaving Egypt. Children shouted. Old men wept. Sabu knelt midway across and touched the exposed riverbed. Karen carried a small seal jar containing the official grain standard. On the western bank, Micah climbed a low rise and looked back at the wilderness. Somewhere beyond sight lay Sinai, the altar, Eitan's grave, the caves of the conspirators, Huldah's shelter, Sabu's first workshop, and thousands of places where Israel had learned that liberation was easier to announce than to live. Tirzah stood beside him. "Are you ready?" "No," Micah said, "but I will cross." They entered the land. Years later, when fields had been planted and the first harvest ripened, Micah walked to the edge of his family's portion. Workers moved through the barley with sickles. One young man began cutting the grain at the boundary. "Leave the corner," Micah called. The worker looked at the unreaped stalks. "It is good grain. That is why we leave it." "For whom?" "For whoever needs it." By evening, a foreign widow and her son came to glean. They moved cautiously, uncertain whether the owner would drive them away. Micah watched from a distance and remembered Huldah's hollow measure. He went to the old terebinth near the center of the field and dug a small hole among its roots. From his pack he removed Eitan's bloodstained sandal, the blue thread, the 7 grains of barley, the clay seal, and the acacia splinter. Tirzah stood with him. Micah placed the objects in the earth. "No stone?" she asked. "No marker. Then no one will know where it lies. We will know what it means." He covered the hole. Beyond them, the widow and her child gathered barley from the unharvested corner. The boy laughed when he found a cluster of heavy grain. His mother looked toward Micah, waiting for disapproval. Micah lifted a hand, telling them to continue. The setting sun turned the field gold. For a moment he imagined Eitan walking between the rows, counting not the grain taken into the storehouse but the grain left behind for someone else. That, Micah understood, was the measure his brother had died protecting. Not numbers alone, not rituals alone, not rules carved away from human need, but a people learning that holiness could be seen in what they refused to steal, whom they refused to abandon, how honestly they measured, how patiently they judged, how seriously they repaired harm, and whether they remembered that the God who brought them out of bondage had never commanded them to build another Egypt for their neighbors. Micah turned toward his home as the first stars appeared. Behind him, at the edge of the field, the poor continued gathering what justice had deliberately left within their reach.